Welcome to Sports Econ 101. For those of you new to our show, imagine a few guys sitting around a bar without the drinks, talking sports and business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, well-known radio sports personality Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco. And on this show, we discuss sports from a business perspective. In addition, we're going to ask sports trivia questions where we're giving away vacations to the first three callers with the correct answer. Our phone number is 888-660-4495. Write that number down, 888-660-4495, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. The vacations are free. Their only request is a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Today's trivia theme is NFL defensive lineman in honor of our guest today, Natu Tuatagaloa. Love saying that. Natu Tuatagaloa, who's a former NFL defensive end, and he's going to share with us the transition from football into the real world. Thought it'd be kind of interesting also to talk about this recent NFL settlement on concussions with players and find out if he's ever suffered a concussion. There's also been an increase in the linemen, 300-pound linemen. Maybe we'll also talk about Miguel Cabrera's run for a second consecutive Triple Crown. What are his chances? And Johnny Manziel, see if anything's unfolding there. Chris Paul, not LeBron James, is the new NBA union president. And if there's anything left for Tim Tebow now that he's been cut by the Pats. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by IRA Services Trust Company. Check them out at iraservices.com. I personally use them for my diversified IRA. They do a fantastic job. If you have any questions, you can email Edward at sportsecon101, and we'll be sure to answer it on the air. Don't touch that dial because you're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we will be right back. 45 seconds. Ready? Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan.
Hello,
we are in the studio here with Natu Tuatagaloa. I said it right, and I love saying that name.
That's easy for you to say.
That's right. It's almost like Manu.
How many times did you practice that in the mirror?
25
times. Okay.
I've known Natu for a number of years. We played basketball together, and I slammed. He slammed. No, whatever. Okay.
He looks like he could come off the edge right now.
Don't reach across the table. Okay. Natu played 6 years in the NFL as a lineman, and one of the things that we wanted to get into was the big thing about the concussions and the lawsuits. What can you tell us about
Well, it's kind of a long history of media and information out there, and some of it true, some of it false. But this latest lawsuit that's been settled by the NFL kind of raises the finger again that there's guys out there that have played in the league and given a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and also their brain and their life to the game. And a lot of guys who suffered some concussions and other brain injuries along the way that were never treated. They're suffering badly. Many of them passed away, and this diagnosis of CTE has been widely reported about. And so it's
did you ever suffer concussion during a game?
Well, I think that most players suffer at least one or two during their career. Specifically, I don't know that I ever came out of a game because of a head injury or a hit. I mean, when you're young, you're taught to lay the hat and stick them and all those good things. The more stick marks you got on your helmet, the better. So the culture of the game is changing because of it, and hopefully it helps players stay safe and prevent injury. But for the guys that grew up like I did, where you really want to put a lick on somebody and using your helmet and hitting people, it's a good thing that the league is recognizing that there is a problem. It's a good thing that there are folks and families to get compensated by that. But it's an interesting change in the game.
Brings me to my next question. Speaking as a defensive end yourself, what are your thoughts about this whole targeting issue, especially in college football? Guys getting hit. You got the umpire, the officials gotta kind of almost subjectively figure out whether this guy was targeted or if it was just like a clean hit.
Charles Martin, remember that for Jim McMahon? I think he dislocated his shoulder. He even had a little towel that had McMahon's number on it.
Yeah, but now, I mean, you're thrown out of a game. You miss the first half of the next game.
Yeah, they're really putting the screws to the players and the coaches, and the officials have a tough job. I mean, they all have to take insurance policies out because there's never going to be the right call. Players have been taught, since they were young, how to tackle, and that is just now changing the last few years about tackling in a different manner. And when you've got a free safety coming up, trying to hit a running back, and he's throwing his body in there, and he gets called for targeting, whether he meant it or not, he's out of the game. He misses the next half of the next game. And it could really be a detriment to a team, especially if that's a top-notch player that makes a difference in the secondary especially.
They're going to change the cleats to ballet shoes pretty soon.
Give me one hit that you remember.
Well, there's a game we played. I was with Cincinnati, and we played playing against Warren Moon and the Houston Oilers, and we were having a pretty good day that day. And I remember hitting Alonzo Highsmith one time pretty hard, and he was a really tough player, and that was a good lick. And you kind of look up and you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to get up, right? And everything's kind of topsy turvy. So that's a good one. Of course, sticking your head in there with Christian Okoye coming through the line.
Oh my gosh!
The Nigerian nightmare.
That guy. If he kicked you in the head, you were down for the count. And there's a lot of plays like that where you're just looking up in the air and saying, "Oh man, I hope I can get up."
You ever see Hard Knocks? Is that realistic?
Well, I think that my experience with reality TV, having had my family and my brother on The Bachelorette that first season,
Really?
I know that they can take 800 hours of film, boil it down to 8 hours, and make you look.
A lot of editing, man. Yeah.
So it's
I was going to ask you, relating to what Burton was talking about earlier. George Atkinson is a friend of mine, former Raider, I'm sure you heard of. Told me he thought that the NFL was legislating defense out of the game. He says it may help the players in terms of health. But he says it ruins the game. He's a purist. And he says unwittingly, this is going to allow for higher scores in games and give the fans more action, but it's going to take away the defensive part of the game. What do you think of that?
Well, if you look at the NFL rule changes over the last 10 years, even 15 years, they've made it more of an offensive game to begin with. I think that when someone says that they're taking away the defense out of the game, I don't necessarily agree with that. I would say that the rule changes are specific. They're important, and they're about protecting players' health. The transition between where we've been and where we're going is going to be a difficult one. You have to teach little kids who are 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, high school kids, how to play properly, how to tackle properly.
Playing, though, I mean, in the moment, I mean, how do you remember
for the older guys, it's too late. We already have a mindset of you stick your head in there and you're trying to knock somebody's head off. It's just that's just the way it is.
I think about guys like Bob Sinclair with no teeth. Those guys just get kicked in the teeth.
Yeah, the transition is going to be, it's going to take 10 years probably before those younger kids get to the NFL and they've been taught properly how to tackle without using their head, without the targeting, and it's going to take some time. Like I said, when it comes to officials, no one's going to be happy. There's always going to be the bad call.
Well, plus there's going to be so much, with offense, defensive guys are going to be yelled at for not making a good tackle. But then I can't make that tackle legally, and so, a guy just runs right over him.
Well, I don't know that that's ever going to be the case. The priority is always to get the guy on the ground, right? So you're never going to miss a tackle because of some technique that you don't know or that you haven't been taught or that you're going too fast. People are going to play fast, they're going to play hard, and they're going to hit hard. The difference is where do you put your helmet? The whole idea of seeing what you hit, the whole idea of wrapping up. If NFL players could learn how to wrap up players and hold them up for their friends, you'll see a lot more turnovers in the game. Because the second guy that gets to the pile is going to be ripping the ball out. And that's what they should be teaching. First guy hold you up, next guy get the ball.
See, I used to say that back in the 70s. I go, why aren't there more fumbles? I mean, nobody goes for the ball. They just tackle the guy. And then finally, in the last 15 years, you see guys.
Yeah, they try to rip it right on out of there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you from a defensive lineman standpoint, when you're not as big as the offensive lineman in most cases. You're giving up 20, 30, 40 pounds. By the end of the game, it's a lot, strength and all that. When you're holding on to a 300-pound, 300-plus pound offensive lineman and you're trying to maintain the gap, and here comes the running back, he's coming full steam, trying to tackle the ball or knock the ball out, it's pretty tough. I mean, you you got to get a good hit on someone. So you're really just trying to make the tackle.
Yeah.
But even if you did tackle the ball and try to rip it out, these running backs are taught, and that's all they do. They carry the ball around at lunchtime. I mean, they just hold the ball as tightly as they can. It's hard to get ripped out. They do a good job of it.
Who are some of the best at your position playing today? Because I would imagine when you're watching a game, you're looking at the box, how much is stacked and how much of a push they're going to be getting.
Yeah, it's really tough for me to say because I watch a lot of college football and I don't watch a lot of pro football. And when I do watch the pro football, I do watch what's happening in the box.
Right.
So I'm keen on what guys are doing. But this kid from Texans. What's that guy's name on the Texans? Number 99.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Old age, I'm slipping.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't pay attention too much to the names. I just watch the guy's technique, how fast they're getting off the ball, what kind of leverage they have, how they're turning the corner, how they really maintain the line of scrimmage. A lot of these defensive linemen, they're all technicians now. And when they're big and they're technical, they're even better. When they can hold gaps in the middle and then make moves, it's pretty cool.
Okay, hold that thought because I know when we come back, Vern wants to ask about fighting for your job all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here is our first trivia question. Again, the theme is, in honor of our guest, defensive lineman. And this week I made the questions easier because I was stumping you guys too much. Which great defensive end coined the term sack? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Which great defensive end coined the term sack? 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
Wasn't that Deacon Jones?
That's Deacon Jones.
Sure was.
I had to make them easier.
The kid, is it Webb? What's his
J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt.
That's
That's
it.
it. Yeah.
That guy's a beast.
Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah.
You know one of the problems too is that the guys are so much faster and bigger today. Just simple physics. They're hitting each other harder with more force. And the human body, the tendons.
I hear that a lot about guys are bigger and faster and stronger. But then I go back to the.
Hello, guest shot, gamer babe.
If I asked you to sign.
No, go ahead.
I go back to the combine
Uh-huh.
and I look at some of the combine stats. They're no different than when I played.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just, I think there's always that guy. There's one or two guys that come out that are extremely
look
big,
who's on
extremely
top.
fast,
And I am
extremely
on
strong.
Yes.
You remember your combine number?
Oh yeah.
DE what?
Oh,
I can say
actually, I don't know that
something,
number,
but
but I was in a group of like
in this
15
group.
or 16 guys, and it was awesome.
Oh, I like this one.
Great guys.
See,
Fun times.
Who played on the defensive unit?
The best.
Saying you got the other
That's
check,
right.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
we had,
Do you want to give that to me now? Or?
Tim
I think
Crumright.
you did. What do you think? Mark?
Okay,
No, you wanna
and
do
then
that
we
one?
had
Oh,
Jim
yeah.
Scow
Okay.
and Jason Buck,
All right.
and then Skip McClendon, David Grant, Mike Hammerstein, myself. It was fun. Good times. Yeah, these guys are
Crumry was big coming out of college too. He was really everybody was saying he was going to be a big star.
Well, it's
Right
interesting,
away.
Crumright was a 10th round pick
Yeah, is that
out of
right?
Wisconsin,
Wow.
and he made the team.
Braces on.
Wow.
Right on the second,
Super Bowl.
third
Yeah,
play.
that was an amazing.
Okay, you want to hear a fun story between Nat and me? And I don't know if he'll remember this, but I sure do. Okay, get this. The reason I know Natu is because of playing basketball at the YMCA, right? So here we are playing. You'll like the story too, right? Because he's just a little bigger than I am, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, when I first played with him, you were still playing football. So so he's a little bigger than you are now.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we're playing basketball, right? And the way that they play at the YMCA is, like offense, you call your own fouls.
Mm-hmm.
So something happens, I get on the ground. Natu's team is over here. I'm on a different team. I'm watching this guy. Natu's watching this guy, right? Somehow something happens. I fall down, and someone asks me, "Well, did you get fouled?" And I go, "Yeah, I think so." And so Natu goes, "Oh, I don't believe it." Okay, and we're switching, right? So Natu wants to switch with the guy who's guarding me.
Okay.
So now I got Natu guarding
Oh,
me,
my
right?
God.
And the thing is, I'm pretty good on defense. My offense is not very good. I'm really slow, right? So anyway, we start off playing. Natu, he's kind of like this, right? He's kind of getting in my face a little bit, not too much. And I stop and I go, Natu, I'm honored that you would guard me. And that's what he did. He just cracked up and he just couldn't think it.
Yeah.
Switch back.
That's
right.
right.
That's
That's right.
That
I
is
do
funny.
remember that.
You do remember that,
Yeah.
okay. So,
Wow.
I got to play in an exhibition when I used to play a little college basketball, but I played in an exhibition game against a bunch of guys on the Raiders in like '75, and Marv Harvard was the dirtiest foot basketball player I've ever played
Really?
against. Oh my God, he'd
Hold on,
run
let me
people
run the
over.
pass a little
I
fast.
didn't foul you, and then he'd laugh. He said, "It's okay, don't worry about it. I'll take the foul." And he did it. He just for fun. He was having a great time.
Marv's wife would tell me stories about on game day.
Marv,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And on game day, he would
He's a piece of work. He's funny.
he would sneak out. He would sneak out. He would leave the Raider hotel on the day of the game, run home and get a quickie
Is that right?
before the game, just to relax.
That's right. But he was the kind of guy that would go in, and I get it, I don't know how much truth there is, but he told me the story. He goes, oh, they always used to say I'd go in and clear out biker bars. I said, that's not true. I got in a fight with a bunch of Hell's Angels once. They beat the shit out of me. But from that point on, I was supposed to be the guy that cleaned out the bars. I don't know where they heard him this stuff. He's a piece of work, though. Have you ever met Marv? Not him?
No, I've never met Marv.
He's a funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know him, right?
Infectious laugh.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got
he's got this big chuckle.
You cannot get him to stop telling stories, though. If you get him to start telling stories, he'll literally talk for hours and hours about it. And he's got some great stories, too, about Al Davis. So I asked him once about the...
Those are pretty hell-raising times, those
oh,
guys.
my God.
Up there at the Tropicana,
Oh, yeah, man.
Santa Rosa.
Tropicana. Yeah. I asked him about the Immaculate Reception, he goes. He says, I was on a 6-week Jack Daniels after that.
Oh, man.
He says, I was so pissed off.
Yeah.
He says, we were the best team that year. We were going to go to the Super Bowl.
I think anybody that was a Raider fan then that sees that highlight just
I
goes
remember
crazy.
watching it on TV and just dropping my knees going, I'm not going to allow that. No, they're not going to allow that. George Atkinson this day says, it was an illegal catch and it touched the ground. 2 fouls, or 2 things that wouldn't have allowed it, today. The Immaculate Reception. But it wasn't, it did not hit the ground. You watch it. And it's very questionable that it hit Frenchie Pupils. It was just a freak play that lost the referee. It happens.
Referees have to watch out for the referees. Okay, so we come back. You can ask him.
Yes.
Okay. You ready? Big first segment. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn,
No.
Bruce McGowan, and our special guest, Natu Tuatagaloa. I'm going to keep saying that name. I love it. It's like Manu Tuiasosopo. Yeah, I can say it pretty well. Okay, when we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What great defensive end coined the term sack?
It was Deacon Jones.
Deacon
Right.
Jones.
The late,
and
great Deacon
Yeah,
Jones.
we just lost him.
Yeah.
That was really sad.
Well, you know what he used to say? He said, it wasn't just like, the word sack to sack a city or to sack a country. It wasn't using those terms. He goes, no, you put the guy in a sack and he's just thrown to the side. That's what you do.
He
That
came
was-
up with a head slap, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
See, now, had
That's
Natu
right?
been able to do that?
Did you do that? You ever try that?
Oh,
No,
no.
it was
they
illegal.
Ear hole a guy
throw
and
the
then
flag on that.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that.
Can't get away with it.
Okay, Vern, you wanted to ask Natu a question?
Yeah,
about fight for your job.
I wanted to get your perspective and just kind of explain to the audience how, to me, just an observer, just having covered the league for so many years, how great you have to be part of that 53-man roster, now 47 on the active list on the day of the game. I mean, you really can't take a play off. I mean, you have to be at a high level all the time because, I guess, unique with football, unlike, I guess, your normal everyday job with the listeners out there, every year a team is drafting somebody at your position. Every year. I mean, so if you lag in any way, you could be gone. I mean, for you guys listening out there, just imagine if your employer drafted somebody, for your job every single year.
Yeah, job security doesn't exist in the NFL. That's why they call it not for long.
That's right.
That's right.
So yeah, it's a tough deal. I mean, you work your whole life to get an opportunity to play. And I think the stats are something like less than 1% of all college football players even get a chance to play in the NFL. And then of those that get a chance, I think less than 1% actually make it. And of the ones that make it, it's less than 1% that make it for 3 years or more, something like that. The numbers are astronomical. So the first part about getting in, I mean, you really have a lot of pressure on you because you're trying to impress, you're trying to make plays, you're trying to show up, you're trying to make all the right moves. You want to make mistakes. You got to play well in the preseason, which can be tough. You got to stay healthy. That's a big one because if you get hurt, you're in trouble there. And then you make it that first year, right? So for me, I was very fortunate because, of that returning Super Bowl team, the Bengals that year. I was the only rookie to make the defensive squad, so that was tough. And then in that first year, I didn't play in every game. There was 2 games where I was like the alternate guy that sat out because of the roster change, and I played over 600 snaps of special teams, which is really what got me on the team, was being able to run down the field, crazily reckless abandon and make plays. I did that for a couple of years. Those first 2 years, over 600 snaps of special teams, second only to the Iron Man Leon White for BYU.
Yeah.
That guy played every snap of defense and every snap of special teams, and I don't think he broke a sweat.
So just think about it. So think about this. If you're with the 2s, the 3s, maybe even the 4s in training camp, those guys were the best of the best coming up through, I don't know, Pop Warner, high school, college, and even they couldn't make it with the ones. I mean, you have to be so great every year.
How much did it help coming from Cal?
Well, there's a lot of things that help, especially the coaching that you have. But to go back to Vern's question about what it's like, I mean, it's the ultimate pressure cooker. You have to have the greatest self-talk going on in your head the whole time. You've got to tell yourself how great you are and how you're going to make it, and nothing's going to stop you. And you just have to have that burning desire to make it happen, because sometimes, even with all that, it still doesn't happen.
Well, you can kind of imagine now why there's so many people wanting to take the steroids and anything else that can give them that extra edge. Right?
Yeah, because I would think if somebody came up to your job and said, hey, if you take this little pill, you will be top line. You will be among the best of the best at your job. I mean, how could you? I mean,
you mean for a sports host like me, you got a pill for that? I'm there. I got it. Come on.
How could you not be tempted? How could you not even think about it?
Well, you know what? Excuse me. A friend of mine who's Olympian, right? He was telling me that they had a survey going on that said, if we could guarantee you a gold medal, but here's the catch: you'll die within 2 years. There's a 100% chance of it. Would you still take this pill? And every single one of them said yes.
Wow.
That's how much they wanted that gold medal.
Yeah, that's
wow.
Scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Natu played at a time with Cal. Tell me if I'm wrong, Natu, when the program was really beginning to revitalize under Bruce Snyder. Remember, I think Russell White was with you guys.
He was a little bit after.
I think Joe Cap was your first coach.
Joe Cap?
Joe Cap was my first coach.
Oh, that's right. So you were that's right. And Joe Cap, tell us a little bit about Joe Cap, because every time I run into him at some banquet, he is such a character.
The bear will never die.
Well, didn't he just get in a big fight with some huge guy?
Another coach. Yeah.
He was a Canadian League defensive lineman, and they were at an award ceremony.
Yeah, he got upset.
And Joe was trying to hand the guy like a little flower to make peace.
An olive branch.
An olive branch.
Right.
And the guy didn't like it too much. And, and if you remember, Joe was a good boxer, so the guy took a swipe at him, and Joe pulled back and then went after him and did the 1-2 and put the guy on the deck. It was awesome.
I remember Joe called me up once and he goes, "We got to do the Bruce and Joe show. What do you think, Bruce? You're out of work right now. Would you like to go to work with me and do the Bruce and Joe show?" I seriously considered it for a while. Then I realized Joe couldn't hear very well, so it was going to be difficult to do with a guy who couldn't hear.
Yeah, well, Joe Cap, for
But
me, he's an incredible human being. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a great motivator, full of charisma. What a competitor in his sports career. But for me, it was one of those things where he gave me the opportunity to play at Cal, and that's really something that I cherish. And my family and myself, we're so grateful for that. So we always wish him the best, and when we see him, we always give him a big hug.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, think about it, he was a great player at Cal too.
Well, interesting fact about Joe Cap. I don't know if you know this. He's the only guy who's played in the Rose Bowl, the Grey Cup, and Super Bowl, and lost all 3.
Wow, that's right. Starting quarterback in Super Bowl IV.
Yeah, with the Vikings.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Buck Buchanan nailed him a couple of times. Those great guys.
Okay, moving on for just a minute here. I want to talk about the increase in the number of 300-pound linemen. Now, back in 1970, there was only one, but come in 2009, there were 394 people.
There were only one in 1970?
1970.
Was that Ernie Ladd?
Gene Ferguson of the Chargers.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what was the largest weight that you were?
I played about 280 was probably the largest, between 275 and 280. And, and in the NFL, they do a really good job of putting the scale out there, and you step on it, and you have to mark it off. And if you're overweight, you're getting fined. Sometimes $100 a pound. So,
Wow.
so you really have to stay within a certain area, and they do it based on your past season, what you are in training camp, mini camps. They track it pretty good. So the guys that are actually overweight, the big men who are, they're playing at 310, 315. I mean, they might come into mini camp at 350. Right, that's a lot of weight to drop and still be able to perform and make all the things that you have to make happen on the field. But the size of the guys on the front lines, what's amazing to me is when you get defensive linemen that are over 300 pounds that move quick as cats. And I'll give you an example. A guy like Cortez Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. Hall of Famer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great guy, incredible personality, so gregarious and funny. Made practice or work, as we would say, a joy every day because he was just a jokester, had a great time. But the minute you turned it on, when it was game time, the guy was unbelievable. I mean, to move that kind of weight around the way he did. Same with Warren Sapp, a guy that I didn't get a chance to play with but watched a lot. Another great player, coached by my defensive line coach, Rod Marinelli, who's now with Dallas. Another great defensive lineman big man who could move side to side, get up the field, make plays, and just a relentless pursuit trying to be better.
Well, the interesting thing that I was going to get to on this was that, guys' tendons and bones haven't really changed that much in 25 years. So look at all the injuries. Not forgetting the concussions part of it, but just, the ankle injuries, the knee injuries, guys putting on that kind of weight. It's one thing if you weigh, 250. It's another thing when you weigh 350. Who was it that just tore an Achilles tendon?
Yeah, a lot of pressure on the ankles and the knees, man.
Yeah, there's
Like
a lot
coming
going
in
on.
that heavy.
If you think about it, additional weight that you got to push around is something that's it's tough. But if you're gaining that weight gradually over time, and you're continuing to do the training, the running, the lifting, the agilities, all those training techniques have changed over the last 5 years. And with that, guys have been able to sustain it. But the part that's discouraging about the injuries is that the game is so fast.
That's the thing. These guys are a lot faster.
The game is so fast, and the duration between plays is shortening. Remember when I was playing, it was longer than it is now. It's 35-second clock, and it's not when the guy blows the whistle. It's when the last play ended. Again, let's make more money on TV by keeping the games under 3 hours, right?
Well, with the Chip Kelly Philadelphia Eagles team, it's even faster than that.
Bruce, make your comment.
Well, I was going to say, Natu can address this after the break, but I'm curious to get his thoughts about what the players are making. Comparatively speaking, basketball, hockey, baseball players not only make a lot more, but they get guaranteed contracts. And the NFL doesn't get that.
But you have a lot more players in the NFL.
Well, that's true. That's true. But considering the physical beating that these guys take,
shorter shelf
and the
life.
amount of money that the league is taking in, I don't know. I don't know if it's equitable.
Okay, well, we're going to get.
Yeah, I'd like to get a
We'll
thoughts
let
on that,
Natu explain that when we come back. Okay, second commercial break, second trivia question. Mark Gastineau played for the Jets. What was the name of the Jets' defensive line? They had a nickname for it. The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-660-4495. That's 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Mark Gastineau played for the Jets. What was the name of the Jets' defensive line when he played? Again, 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, and spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
I don't remember that one.
I believe it's the New York Sack Exchange.
It is the New York Sack Exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't he married for a while to Bridget Nelson?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Did they ever get married, or were they just kind of
hanging out? They were like a husband-wife wrestling team.
I thought that they were married when she did that movie with Stallone. When he was
Have you
Well-
seen her lately? She is scary.
Yes.
She got all kinds of
Most recently, she was
sorts of
with who's the guy from
Poor thing.
who's the rapper? Wears the clock around his neck?
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Eazy-E? No, he's
Yeah.
not. He's passed away. No. He had a reality show.
Yeah, they were together.
Yeah.
But she had Stallone first, and then went to Gastineau.
Isn't it interesting how in our culture, well, it's probably true in most cultures, but there are characters like her, or that are sort of one-trick ponies, but they become kind of these cult figures.
We doing
And you
football
mentioned
picks?
It's like 20 years later. You
Football
yeah.
picks.
Are we doing any
You're-
football
When
picks?
you're 6 foot long like that,
I
yeah,
know,
it's tough to
yeah.
forget.
It is tough.
Okay.
Tis the
The,
season.
Well, it's like
it is.
pro athletes.
Up to you.
I can
Yeah, it's
remember
okay. It's,
from when I was a kid some obscure product because I remember the football card, the baseball card.
Yeah.
You know, it flashes in your mind. Don't you do that, Vern?
What's that?
Remember a name of a player or a face of a player from a baseball or a football card from some way obscure player
sure.
from back in the 60s or something? Wow.
okay. We'll have Natu answer that question.
Sure.
You can ask it again when we get back. Then want to touch just a little bit. I always want to cover other sports too. A little bit about Miguel Cabrera. Is he still?
Biggie. Is he
I don't know if you know this. I mean, I don't know if it's got the economics, but would you hear about Oracle Racing? They got fined $250,000, and they got docked 2 points when they go up against Team New Zealand in this America Cup's final. So now that race is even
They have to
tighter.
win more?
that New Zealand only needs to win 9 races to win the America's Cup,
Normally it's 11.
and
right?
and Oracle has to win 11
Yeah. That sounds
And
fair.
what was the?
because
I
it's
didn't
a
really
it's a
follow.
best
What's
of
the-
17.
Yeah.
But what was the premise for it? Was they some kind of cheating or something? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, there
I'm
was
not
some.
sure what.
Yeah,
That whole thing has been a boondoggle.
there's some kind of shenanigans, and apparently it was so bad they came up with those sanctions today.
Have you gone out and covered any of that stuff, Vernon?
Yeah, we have a whole news crew that's like covering it every day. But now that they're really about to,
Did they
get
let you
it
go
on.
on the boat though, just for a little, not to actually?
well, months ago,
Yeah.
they take you out or whatever.
Really?
I mean, they're
That would have been a good Mr. Involvement.
they're
Yeah.
amazingly they are amazingly fast.
I bet. 47 miles an hour.
Ah,
Is that right?
Yeah. 47 miles an hour.
you're quick.
Was there anything to cover on Johnny Manziel now that he's been,
Who's that?
happy? I was going to cover it, but then,
When he did something this past weekend that pissed off his coach.
Yeah, he made like a
He made
a little gesture after one of his plays or something.
Is he bad?
Yeah, he was jawing off with a couple of Rice players.
Yeah,
He's
he just had
full of
some
himself.
he just had some on-field antics that you just don't need.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're under
When
the
he throws a
spotlight-
touchdown, he goes like that. It's like his little bunny thing.
Uh,
But he did that all last year.
Yeah, but he did something where he signed an autograph or something, or pointed at the scoreboard or something like that. I mean, he just did something.
Rest like threw the flag. The coach took him out of the game immediately.
Who was the guy that took the
But then
cell
again,
phone,
by
planted the
the-
cell phone and took it out and started calling somebody?
years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, it was years ago in
But
the
he-
NFL.
Wasn't it?
But he actually had. Did he actually have a cell phone?
Wasn't Terrell Owens? He had the pen.
Right.
Somebody had a cell phone. It was in the goal post,
Right.
and he took it out of the goal post.
He called his buddy, right?
Yeah.
I just scored a touchdown. I love it. That's classic.
Okay.
That is great. So now you get into the A's at all? You like to watch the A's at all?
I haven't been to an A's game in a couple of years, but they're awesome.
They're fun to watch. Gonna go out tonight.
Are you going to Texas tonight?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cologne's pitching. That should be fun.
Okay.
All right.
You're gonna ask that.
Yeah, okay. I got you.
Boy, any of these questions would be a little too easy for you. In fact, the next one.
Got some
Actually,
knowledge
the
in
next
this
one's
room.
probably easy too. Nah, that's okay. I should have had some hard ones there. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, host, along with Vern Glenn, Bruce McGowan, and our guest Natu Tuatagaloa. And when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Mark Gastineau played for the Jets. What was the name of the Jets' defensive line when he played? Vern?
The New York Sack
The
Exchange.
New York Sack Exchange. That is
Right.
correct. All right.
Remember Gastineau, a little dance he would do after sack?
that's
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
It was his original sack.
Yeah.
Original
Yeah,
sack. And then he had his little tete-a-tete with Bridget Nelson. Nielsen? Is it
Nielsen.
Brigitte Nielsen.
Bridget
Yep.
Nielsen, yeah.
And-
After Stallone. Stallone's
that's right.
sloppy seconds.
I wonder if he ran out of the room doing his sack dance.
And then Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
For Rocky IV.
Hey, speaking of that, I heard Tommy Morrison died.
Tommy Morrison. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Tommy Gunn?
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Heart
yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
attack?
We don't know what he was only 44.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a heart attack.
It was a sudden thing, right?
But he had contracted HIV
that's
in
right.
the early
Oh,
90s.
that's right. I
Yes.
remember that. I was going to say maybe he could join the NFL lawsuit for the concussions being a boxer. No. Okay. Bruce, you wanted to ask?
Oh, I had a question. I was curious to get Natu's feeling about this. That I always felt the NFL players, I realize there are a lot more of them than there are in the other sports, but the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that they put in, the number of injuries they walk away with. I mean, you don't hear that much about guys in hockey, basketball, football, or baseball walking away with life-threatening injuries that ruin their lives. And you hear a lot more about that in football. Because of that, it just seems to me they should compensate. And because the league is making so much money, don't you think the players are a little underpaid? Is that because the union isn't that strong, or what's your feeling?
Oh, it's a strong union.
But I mean, it used to.
Well, it's if you compare the unions across the board, the baseball union is probably the strongest union. They do a really good job of representing their membership. The NFL Players Association has gone through some transitions over the years, and it's an incredibly unjust thing in some cases where guys just don't get paid a lot of money and they put their lives on the line and suffer injury. But it's the economics of the game. I mean, if you think about the NFL from an economic standpoint, it's the greatest show on earth. It has the big top, it has the games, it has the high-flying passes and touchdowns and all the things that go along with
Don't
the
look at the
big top.
cheerleaders.
Yeah, the cheerleaders too. But I mean, think about like we talked about the rule changes, making it more offensively appealing and no pass interference on every play they go, except for in the Super Bowl where that should have been a PI in the end zone.
Yeah, that's right.
So you think about that, the big top of the NFL, and you think about all the little sideshows outside. Well, you got CTE being a sideshow, you've got player transition being another sideshow, you've got all this drug, alcohol, and gun problems as a sideshow. And the NFL does a great job of managing those sideshows that never takes away from the big top. The big show is always going on. That's where the spotlight is at all times. So think about what they're doing. They've done a great job of managing their business in that manner.
Sure.
Do you think that they're going to let the employees make any more money than they can possibly make?
No.
There's no way. I mean,
But I'm just saying, don't you think that's kind of unfair? Even
well, I mean, fair is a kind of a.
So you can negotiate.
I don't know
That's
that's
true.
the right
It's the
term.
It's American business.
You
I
get
guess.
paid for what you're worth at some level, but what determines that worth? The amount of money some of these draft picks get is unbelievable, and they haven't done anything.
Jamarcus Russell,
right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those examples, and then there's examples of guys who started 10th round draft picks who worked their way up into being starters, and then they got compensated later on in their career. I think that one of the problems is that the NFL career is so short. If you play 10 years in the NFL, you're lucky.
Sure. What's the average? 3.5 or something?
It's like,
Something like
yeah,
that.
it's
And did you have a good agent?
yeah, no, a good agent, good representation, a lot of good framework and foundation work that was done up front, which is good. But to have a guy make a minimum salary and you're playing next to a guy that's making millions of dollars a year, that's where the disparity is. And it's all on a staircase hierarchical system. So if you're drafted, 5th round, you're going to make less than the guy that was drafted in the 4th round, and the 3rd round, and 2nd round, and 1st round, just like that. So it's a staircase effect.
But do you think across the board, all the players realize the assumption of risk?
I think that they might tell themselves that. The truth is that it's a kid's game, right? You're playing a kid's game. You might as well go out on the parking lot and play on the gravel. It's the same thing. Instead of getting hit by a car because you're not looking, you're getting hit by a 300-pound lineman.
Right.
Well, Will Clark said he used to play. He said I played for free if they.
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys would because it's to play the sport, to play on a team sport, to work really hard with a bunch of guys to prepare for that sport, and then to find success in that sport. You can't ask for anything more. You ask any athlete, finding success in something that you work really hard in makes all the difference. It makes it worth it, whether you get hurt or not get hurt, or the risk of being hurt.
Well, one thing I did want to cover with you is I was doing some research, and you were apparently one of 8 plaintiffs on the Plan B free agency. And I was going to ask you, first of all, if you could expand on that, the Plan B free agency, and how did that affect the rest of your career?
Well, I was a 3-year player at the Bengals, and I was going into my 4th year, and this Plan B free agency thing came up, and basically it was a method by which the league controlled their free agency with their players. They could make you a Plan B free agent, and you could then go to other teams. And the Players Association thought that was going against the collective bargaining agreement, so they filed a suit. And I was one of those players because my contract was up, and I was going to be one of those Plan B free agents where they could either hold me or let me go, depending upon how they felt about it. So the end result is it drastically affected my career because I went to the first minicamp in Cincinnati that year. Mike Shula was the new coach. I did not attend the second minicamp because of this Plan B issue. And then I found myself out of a job all of a sudden. So there was a spot there where I was pretty concerned about where am I going to end up? What's going to happen luckily, I landed in Seattle that year
Yeah.
after they had let go of Keith Millard and they had signed me in his place. And I spent 2 years in Seattle, which was a great time for me. Became a starter up there. So that transition went from I could have signed another 3-year deal with the Bengals for less money than I made in Seattle in 2 years. So there's an economic issue there, but also the opportunity issue. I got to go play on a defense with guys like Cortez Kennedy, Joe Nash, Rufus Porter, Jeff Bryant, some great players, and we had a great time with their playing some defense. We weren't very good offensively because we had a kind of a backup quarterback 1 year and then the rookie Rick Meyer the second year, but it was fun times there. So yeah, it was a game changer for me, and ultimately, the Players Association prevailed. Plan B was
that's kind of interesting. Interesting you mentioned that about
CBA.
playing with. You said the offense really wasn't that great. I'm wondering, being defense, you're probably a tight knit group. You guys are trying as hard as you can to do your job, but then you kind of see the other side of the offensive situation, and it's not really that good. And how demoralizing can that be?
Well, the saying, "Do your job," right?
Yeah.
I mean, like Vern was saying, it's a pressure cooker. If you don't do your job, and remember, everything in the NFL is filmed. Practice is filmed.
Yeah.
Games are filmed. And you're watching
Your
it
every move.
over and over and over. So if you're supposed to be in the right gap and you're not, you get kind of dinged on your little report, and then it's too many minuses. You find yourself out of a job.
Well, I do remember watching you on Monday Night Football and making a sack, almost getting a safety. That was very, very exciting. I'm sure you'll remember.
I had a quick question for Natu, and again, this is off topic, but to me, the fascinating thing about pro athletes is you run into some really interesting people, some characters. You mentioned Warren Sapp a while ago. When he was with the Raiders, I remember going up to him in the locker room once and putting my hand on his shoulder and saying, "Hey, Warren, you got a second?" He looks at me, "Take your hand off my shoulder. Don't ever put a hand on the shoulder of a man you don't know, because you could be taken the wrong way." I just thought, "Oh, okay." And I kind of laughed, and he looked up at me and he says, "Who are you?" And I introduced myself. He goes, "You're okay, but just be careful next time."
Oh, that's funny.
And I mean, that just underscores the fact that there's some real characters in that locker room.
Absolutely, absolutely. They make enough movies and now other shows on TV about what goes on in the locker room. I mean, it's ridiculous. It should be a reality show. I mean, they could take enough hours. They could take enough hours out of the locker room and really turn it into something good. There's enough drama in there. I mean, you don't need a soap opera anymore.
Just make sure they have enough towels.
Another good one is Bill Romanowski. We can tell some stories about him. What a character.
Character he was.
Yeah.
I mean, just from what we know
Yes.
as the audience.
Yeah.
But changing subject for just a second here. Miguel Cabrera, his run for second Triple Crown consecutive. What do you think his chances
He's
are?
been injured lately.
Yeah. He's got some injury problems. I think that's going to...
Can you imagine, though, if winning 2 in a row? That would just be like
Mantle-esque or
godlike.
Mays-esque,
Which neither one of them
Neither
won.
one of them did.
Yeah. I mean, even Ted Williams.
Were you much of a baseball fan growing up, Natu, or you just football?
Yeah, no, I liked all the sports. When you grow up, and I grew up here in Marin, San Rafael, we played all the sports: football, basketball, baseball, track, even did boxing in high school. So we're always paying attention around here. And now with the little kids, you're coaching them, so you got to really pay attention.
That's it. Yeah, we had daughters who played on the same softball team. Okay, let's see, what else have we got here? Anything to talk about Johnny Manziel? Nice little slap on the wrist.
Who is that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What does he have to just stay out of?
Well, it's full
half
speed
one
forward
game?
now for him at Texas A&M. It's all about that game of the Crimson Tide right now.
That's right. That's right.
That's the make or break Heisman moment.
If you think about what he did last year, it was an amazing feat on the field. He took things into his own hands. And,
Well, nobody knew about him
Yeah.
when the season began, and then
What a
all of a
surprise.
sudden, this redshirt freshman
Yeah.
comes up and beats the Crimson Tide at Alabama.
Hey, speaking of up and coming, how about this kid Jared Goff from Marin Catholic, right in our backyard, going to your alma mater? And I guess he lost the other day, but he threw something like 3 touchdowns and
485
Was it
yards passing.
and was 5 touchdowns.
Put it up over 60 times.
Whoa!
Yeah,
And his,
60,
I
correction,
yeah.
3 attempts.
I was going to say his replacement at Marin Catholic looks pretty good. Morgan Mahalik. I mean, they may have a pipeline of great quarterbacks.
Well, they've got,
school.
you talk about some real genes there. I played with Jared's dad, Jerry, in Pop Warner and in high school and in college. And you talk about a great athlete. His dad is unbelievable.
Well, he was a catcher, so he
Yeah,
had a pretty strong
but-
arm.
yeah.
Right?
But baseball and being a catcher is one thing. Jerry was an all-around athlete all the time. Great guy. And, his wife, Nancy, again, another family friend of ours, they just have done a great job raising their kids and with the support. And, of course, Jared's choice to go to Cal, I couldn't be happier. I think that it's going to be a great tradition for their family since everyone went to Cal. And he's there now. And I went to the game last week, and I tell you, I was so excited just to be there. The feeling and energy with the crowd and the way that they ran their offense. I thought for a true freshman, he did an incredible job.
How loud was Memorial Stadium on the fake field goal touchdown on the opening drive?
It was deafening.
Woo!
Absolutely deafening. It was so awesome. I mean, first of all, to watch him and the offense take the ball right down the field and then get to, I don't know, maybe like the 13 or 14 before they decided to kick. I mean, everyone, I think, was at that point saying, wow, they really have something. And they lined up for the field goal, and I think everyone was pretty happy. Oh, we're going to get a field goal out of it. Then they ran the fake. I mean, everyone around me jumped up, and they were high-fiving and screaming and yelling. It was an incredible experience. So, you know, people keep asking me, so what do you think? What do you think? Well, I can tell you this, Cal fans, it's going to be an exciting 4 years with that kid.
Well,
He's unbelievable.
He threw for 2 touchdowns, had 3 picks. A couple of them wasn't his fault. But, I mean, and he made all the throws in that game. That's what I was looking for. Could he make all the throws? Went deep a couple of times. I mean, he's got the range, all he needs is probably
18 years old, too, right?
Yeah.
Well, he has such composure back there, and I think that's been the biggest thing for a true freshman to sit back there and do the 3-step throw and have the confidence that the ball's going to get there. And then a couple times when he actually sat in the pocket, I mean, it was kind of weird. I watched him sit in that pocket and then just look, and then fire that ball. I mean, he looked awesome.
It's like a
got just
Montana.
a few months removed from his senior
High school.
prom.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
And he's
Okay.
running a spread offense for
Hey, guys.
Sonny Dykes.
Cutting to the third commercial break here. What was the name of the defensive line that consisted of Deacon Jones, Lamar Lundy, Merlin Olsen, and Rosie Greer? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Don't forget to call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. What was the nickname of the defense line that consisted of Deacon Jones, Lamar Lundy? Which, Lamar Lundy, you don't really hear of him too much, which is Deacon Jones, Merlin Olsen, and Rosie Greer. Make sure to include your email address and your name. Speak slowly. Spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because when we come back, we're going to have some closing thoughts on Sports Econ 101.
And you know why you don't hear too much about Lamar Lundy? Because he died fairly young.
So the reason-
All the other guys were around for a while.
Yeah.
But now I guess the only one left is Rosie Greer.
And he was the biggest one.
He's not doing too well either, from what I understand.
The fearsome foursome.
Yeah, the first and fourth.
Yeah.
See, you got them all this
Yeah.
time.
What they called the 49ers? The Gold Rush back in the
Gold
70s.
Rush, yeah.
Gold Rush.
Well, I remember when they made I remember when, not all of them because Lundy was gone, but I think the remaining 3, I just remember this guest shot they made on like the $6 Million Man.
Oh, yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Larry Salk was on that too.
They all went on together on some variety show and did a song. And Merlin Olsen, they said the 3 black guys were sitting there going, Merlin Olsen's got no sense of soul or rhythm.
Right.
You know, the other guys are just like, come on, Merlin. Well,
Rosie Greer was quite a pianist.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was quite a character. Well, I guess he grabbed Sirhan when Sirhan shot RFK.
Yeah, he was the.
Was he really?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah.
No,
he was the guy. He says he stepped out of the way, and made Robert Kennedy an open target.
Yeah.
And then Sirhan fired. Yeah, he blames himself.
he does.
He's walking
Really?
around with
Yeah.
that? Holy
Blames
shit.
himself.
Yeah, he and Rayford Johnson were volunteer.
Because they went because they left he left the dais and they moved him through the kitchen
Yeah, through the kitchen to get him out.
To
He
get
was
to
gonna
the
go out
car.
through the kitchen.
to whisk him
Normally
out
you
of
go
there.
out through the crowd and handshake, but they wanted to get him out of there quickly.
And Sirhan was right in the kitchen. Blam.
I remember watching that on TV. I was 16 years old watching
Yeah,
this,
I remember him saying
and it
that.
was surreal. All of a
I was
sudden,
8 years old.
horrible.
He was still in diapers.
You were still in diapers.
Yeah,
You were 2.
he was a young kid.
Or you were born in that too?
66.
66.
I
So you
was
played at
6.
Cal from 80. What was it? 80.
I was there 84 through 88.
Okay.
So I had Gil Gilbert
Oh, yeah.
first year, and then Kevin Brown and Ryan Bedford for a year, and then we had Troy Taylor.
Troy Taylor. He was pretty good. Troy
So
Taylor.
you know Greg Loberg.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's a good guy. Yeah, I knew all the Lobergs.
Yeah, you just missed the play by 2 years.
Yep. Missed
Yeah.
about 2 years.
He was, but Greg was there, but he was on the sideline because he was a middle linebacker. So he was just giving him lunch. Okay, so come back with the question. Any last thoughts? And then I'll just going to ask one very, very quick question. You guys can just through with. Ready? Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan. We're in the studio here with former NFL lineman Natu Tuatagaloa. When we cut to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What was the nickname of the defensive line that consisted of Deacon Jones, Lamar Lundy, Merlin Olsen, and Rosie Greer?
I bet you Natu knows that one.
The fearsome force.
Here we go.
Thanks, Vern.
I
think you're passing notes in school there.
That's it. Each one of you had to answer a question correctly. Okay, before we cut out of here, just really quickly, anyone any comment about Tim Tebow? I mean, he gets cut by the Pats.
I think he's going to get another job somewhere.
He's got to. The guy's
Somebody will-
talented.
yeah,
He's got
somebody will
talent.
Somebody will pick him up. He may go back to New England
Yeah.
because as Natu can probably tell you, the 53 now will be a different 53 2 months from
That's
now.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think his playing days are over. I think he's too valuable of an athlete, and he's a great team player. So I think he'll be out there.
Yeah,
I think the media loves the guy too. I mean, because he's such a character. He is, he is a religious fanatic, perhaps, but hey, he's got personality. He does, and people love that in the media, and the fans love it too.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
I've got just in honor of Natu, I've got the Seahawks beating the Panthers this weekend, and I got the Bengals beating the Bears on the road.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I think that's good.
All right, guys, we are going to cut out for today. I want to thank my co-hosts, Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan. Thank you, Natu, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thoughts for the day. Yogi Berra said, half the lies they tell me about, messed this up. Half the lies they tell about me aren't true. And Vince Lombardi said, show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. That's got to be tough.
Ouch.
Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101, where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective, and we give away vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye, America.
So long.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Natu.
All right.
Man, thanks.
Hey.
So you running for
Pleasure.
political office again?
I ran.